Heart disease is the number one killer in the world today. So what I'd like to look at today is heart disease preventable? Can heart disease be conquered? Can the arteries be cleaned out? Can the heart be strengthened?
As you just heard from Barbara O'Neill, heart disease is the number one cause of death worldwide. It's a silent killer that claims millions of lives every year, but here's the good news: it's largely preventable. In today's video, we're diving into how heart disease develops, the role clogged arteries play, and the steps you can take to protect your heart health. So stick around. This is information that could save your life or the life of someone you love. Let's get started.
But when you understand that the human body's been designed to heal itself, I think you'll realise that the answer to all those questions is yes. And we've seen some incredible turnarounds in the health retreats that I've been running. So what I'd like to look at is, I'd like to start with a Bible verse, and it's found in Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23, where the Bible says, "Keep the heart with all diligence, because out of it are the issues of life." So keep the heart with all diligence, meaning we've got to look after this heart, we've got to strengthen this heart, and it can be strengthened. So we're going to look at that. And then the next part says, because out of it are the issues of life. Leviticus 17:11, the Bible says that the life of the flesh is in the blood. And we know that the heart is the pump that pumps the blood all through the human body. So any part of the body that is not getting blood will actually die. It'll quickly die. So there are some simple treatments that can strengthen the heart. There are some simple herbs and things that can keep that blood nice and thin and even open and strengthen the arterial walls. But what the heart is it's a muscle. So let's have a look at what the muscle is made up of. It's made up of cells. And as we've looked at a few times this week, the glucose goes into the cell under the action of insulin, and we're going to be looking at insulin in a little bit more detail after the break. So the insulin is the key that unlocks the door to get the glucose into the cell. When the glucose gets into the cell, it goes through a 20-step pathway, and this 20-step pathway delivers 2 units of energy. The end result of the 20-step pathway is a chemical form of glucose, and this chemical form of glucose is called pyruvate. Pyruvate, as the chemical form of glucose, gets fed into what's often called the powerhouse of the cell, called the powerhouse of the cell because this 8-step pathway delivers to us 36 units of energy. What makes the difference is oxygen. Whereas the 20-step pathway does not use oxygen. The 20-step pathway creates energy by the process of fermentation. Our heart is a muscle, and the muscle is made up of cells, and here is how the cell is working. When we ensure that we're getting adequate oxygen coming in, every single cell that makes up the muscle, the heart, it'll work more effectively.
Supporting heart health starts with simple, effective choices. Consistent, nutrient-rich foods like berries, leafy greens, and healthy fats from olive oil help improve circulation, lower blood pressure, and reduce the risk of blockages. Natural herbs also play a role in strengthening arteries and promoting smooth blood flow. The heart, a powerful muscle, relies on proper nutrition and balanced energy production to stay strong. Glucose, with the help of insulin, fuels cells and keeps the heart energized. By making these small dietary and lifestyle changes, we can build lasting heart resilience and significantly lower the risk of heart disease.
And probably your pulse is one indication of how strong your heart is. The stronger your heart is, the lower your pulse will be. And that's not genetics. My son, Peter, when he was 25, he's in his mid-30s now, he was training for a triathlon, and he was running up and down the hills behind Brisbane. So what he was doing, and this is the most effective form of exercise, it's the high intensity interval training. So as the name implies, they are intervals of high intensity and intervals of recovery. And when you're exercising where there are hills, that's what you got. It's high intensity up, recovery down. Now my son Peter is a tiler, and he was a junior tiler at this time, and he was in an old bathroom, and it had an old 50s size, not 50s size, but a 50s type vanity unit, big ceramic thing, and it had a huge chip out of it and very heavy, and as he was manoeuvring it, he'd loosened it, got it out, it slipped and hit his ankle, and I think if he hadn't had a bone in there, it would have cut his foot off, and the blood hit the roof. And he yelled out to my son, who's about 8 years older, he's also a builder, he said, "James," and James said to him, "I'm on the phone, mate." And I tell you that to show you that there was a little bit of a delay before James came in. And I think Peter said, "Quick!" So James came in, and James said when he came into the bathroom, the blood was spattered all over the roof, all over the walls. And the reason that was so, you see, when they went to hospital and they took his pulse, it was about 50 beats per minute. Peter's heart was so strong that when it beat, it pushed the blood with such a burst that the blood hit the roof. Now, if Peter's pulse was 70 beats per minute, the blood wouldn't hit the roof. The reason why Peter's pulse was so slow is because of the exercise, because he was running up and down hills. And that's what you'll find as you implement an exercise program, and we all should have an exercise program. We're training for something more important than the Olympic Games. Do the Olympian athletes miss a day? Never. What are we training for? We're training for life. We're training for our latter years. And I want to enjoy my latter years.
One of the most profound ways to maintain heart health is through regular physical activity, particularly high-intensity interval training. This type of exercise, which involves alternating between periods of intense effort and rest, helps to build cardiovascular strength and efficiency. A low resting heart rate signifies better heart health, reducing the risk of heart disease. This exercise-driven strength not only aids daily functions, but prepares the body for unexpected stresses, like injuries, by enabling quick, strong circulatory responses.
Number 3, sunshine. Now, we haven't had much sun over the last few days, have we? But the good news is vitamin D stores very well in the body. And the best way to get sunshine is to expose the body as much as possible to the sun. So I was asked the question, what sunscreen do you use? I don't. I don't use sunscreen at all. Have you read what's on the packet of the sunscreen? Our skin needs sun to get the vitamin D. The ultraviolet rays from the sun hit a form of cholesterol just under the skin to vitamin D. What's converted to vitamin D? Cholesterol. But isn't cholesterol the number one cause of heart disease? No. I'd like to take this moment to give you the cholesterol story. Remember Proverbs 14 verse 6, knowledge is easy to him that understands. Your liver makes cholesterol, and the cholesterol that your liver makes, 80% is made from glucose and 20% is made from fat. So yes, just even this piece of information alone tells you it's not the butter on the bread, it's the bread under the butter that's the problem. The wrong guy's been shot. In fact, fat's been shot because of who it hangs around with. It's not the olive oil on the pastor, it's the pastor under the olive oil. So let's move on and let me show you a little bit more. The two main cholesterols made in the body are HDL and LDL. High density lipoprotein, low density lipoprotein. They both have a role in the body, but unfortunately HDL is being called the good guy, but LDL is called the bad guy. Am I right? But the body doesn't make anything bad. They have a role. So the role of HDL is the carrier. And this carrier carries excess cholesterol back to the liver, where the liver's what makes it. Whereas LDL, it's the repairer and the rebuilder. So wherever there's a job of repair or rebuilding, you will find LDL. LDL plays another role. LDL delivers cholesterol to the brain. And the brain loves cholesterol. And the reason the brain loves cholesterol is because when it burns fat as fuel, it's getting twice the units of energy. In fact, the brain is the fattiest organ in the body. The membrane around every cell is 50% fat, except the brain cell, it's 70% fat. Now, these two cholesterols work together in the body. So here is blood vessel. Because of its low density, LDL is always on the edge. Because of its high density, HDL is always in the middle. In her book, Put Your Heart in Your Mouth, Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, she spends the first 3 or 4 chapters showing what causes damage to the arterial wall. So what causes damage to the arterial wall? The arterial wall is made up of little endothelium cells, and they get damaged quite easily. So environmental poisons, chemicals, damage the cells.
Heart disease is often linked to high cholesterol, but it's more complex. Cholesterol plays vital roles in the body, such as repairing tissues and maintaining cellular function. The liver produces most cholesterol from glucose, with only a small amount coming from dietary fats, so the focus should shift from blaming foods like butter or olive oil to considering processed carbs that often accompany them. A diet rich in antioxidants from foods like leafy greens and berries helps reduce oxidative stress, balance HDL and LDL, and support heart health. A holistic approach, focusing on both diet and lifestyle, is essential to reducing the risk of heart disease.
Something else comes into the equation. There are little protein molecules floating all through our blood, and when someone's on a very high carbohydrate diet, high sugar diet, there's got excess glucose floating through the blood, and it connects with these little protein molecules and becomes sticky, and it sticks. They stick to the walls of the arteries, and what they can do is they can get dislodged, and there's the blockage. That's the number one cause of a stroke if it's in the carotid arteries. It's the number one cause of a heart attack happening in the heart muscle. So can you see by what I've shown you here, it's not one thing that causes heart disease, it's a whole lot of little things. Can that be cleared out? Absolutely, it can be cleared out. You might have heard of a very famous American doctor. Her name's Dr. Agatha Thrash. She's passed now, but her and her husband started Uchee Pines. She used to tell the story of a lady that came to their retreat who was an alcoholic. She was in her, I think, early 70s. She had a total turnaround at the health retreat. She went through the detox program. She gave her heart to God. And she said to Agatha, "I don't want to leave." And Agatha said, "I think we can make a place for you here." And she helped out. After 10 months, the lady had a stroke and she died. I think an embolism had burst in her brain. So Agatha Thrash did a post-mortem on her. And she said her arteries were clear. And when she came to them 10 months earlier, she had 85, sometimes 95% occlusion, meaning blockage of her arteries. You can't always put a time on it for how long, but that's quite amazing, isn't it? So in 10 months, maybe even shorter than that, going on a plant-based diet, stopping anything that would come in and harm these arterial walls, her arteries had cleared. So that's the good news.
A high carbohydrate and high sugar diet can damage the arteries by increasing blood sugar and promoting inflammation, which leads to plaque buildup in the arteries. This narrows and hardens the arteries, raising the risk of heart disease and stroke. Excessive sugar and refined carbs also contribute to insulin resistance, further harming arterial health. Reducing processed carbs and sugars helps protect the arteries and supports cardiovascular function.
So before I close, I want to introduce you to a few herbs. One is the cayenne pepper. In Psalm 104, verse 14, the Bible says that God gave herbs for the service of man. And cayenne pepper is one of the best heart herbs we have. Cayenne pepper does 3 things. It thins the blood. Whereas aspirin, it thins the blood to the point where it causes eye bleeds, brain bleeds, and stomach bleeds. It's not a safe drug. Whereas cayenne pepper, it thins the blood and it'll heal the brain bleeds from the aspirin in the brain and the eye and the stomach. Cayenne pepper also dilates the blood vessels. So with dilating the blood vessels, you get a more effective and efficient flow of blood through the whole body. And cayenne pepper strengthens the arterial wall. So if there has been damage in the arterial walls, the cayenne pepper will strengthen arterial walls. It's a powerful herb. How do you take it? Start with 1/4 teaspoon in about 1/3 cup of water just before each meal. Throw it down, it'll tingle a bit, but the tingle stops. The other herb is hawthorn berry. Hawthorn berry strengthens the heart. In fact, if the blood pressure's low, it'll bring it up. If it's high, it'll bring it down. Remember Psalm 104 verse 14, God made herbs for the service of man. The hawthorn berry comes in, and whatever your body needs to do, whatever your heart needs to do, it will work with that. So you can take it in many ways. You can take it as a herb tea. If you take it as a herb tea, being a dried berry, it needs to be gently simmered. And the rule of thumb is 2 teaspoons to a cup of water, and ideally you would have 1 litre of that a day. Or you can buy it in a capsule form or a tablet form, and you can take up to 4,000 milligrams a day. It's a very safe herb, and you can use it even in conjunction with blood pressure medication. So I'll give you the story of Henry to show you what he did. He was a retired judge. He came to our health retreat a few years ago now. He was, I think, 69, and he was on 6 medication. He was on medication for high blood pressure, for blood thinning, for blood cholesterol, for blood sugar, for gout, and for stomach ulcers. So he's on 6 medications. I said, are you interested in stopping your medication? He said, no, I'm very happy with my medication. Thank you very much. I always respect everyone's right for what they choose to put into their body. And shouldn't we? It's our God-given right. But we gave him hawthorn berry tea a day. We gave him 1 litre to drink through the day. It's not an unpleasant tea. We also gave him a little cayenne pepper. He was happy for us to try a few things. He took the herbs with him when he went home. He rang me 4 months later. He said, Barbara, I'd like to visit you and get a few more hawthorn berries. I said, come for lunch, Henry. Now, when I opened the door, I did not recognise Henry. He had lost 20 kilos in 4 months. What's that, 40 pound? He said, I can do my coat up now. All the puffiness had gone out of his face. He said, I've got a few stories for you. He said, I went to the doctor recently to have my blood pressure taken, and the doctor stood up and left the room. He said, where are you going? He said, the machine's broken. Henry said, why do you say that? He said, well, your blood pressure is 160 on 95. Did you hear that? That's on medication. He said, this machine says your blood pressure is 120 on 80. It must be broken. Henry said, that's my blood pressure now. The doctor took him off all his medication because his blood thinning's normal, his blood cholesterol's normal, his blood sugars are normal, his blood pressure's normal. He has no more gout, and he does not have stomach ulcers anymore.
Cayenne pepper and hawthorn berry are both powerful natural remedies that offer amazing benefits for artery health. Cayenne pepper, rich in capsaicin, improves blood circulation by stimulating nitric oxide production, which helps relax blood vessels and promotes smooth blood flow. It also aids in repairing the arterial walls, strengthening and rejuvenating them to prevent damage. Additionally, cayenne has a natural blood-thinning effect that reduces the risk of blood clots and helps prevent plaque buildup, while its anti-inflammatory properties further protect the arteries. Hawthorn berry, on the other hand, is packed with antioxidants, flavonoids, and polyphenols that support healthy blood flow and help strengthen the arterial walls. It works by relaxing and widening the blood vessels, which can help lower blood pressure. And that's it again for today, guys. We hope you learned something about keeping a healthy, strong heart by cleaning your arteries. Remember, your body has a very strong ability to heal itself by making the right choices. It's never too late to achieve a healthier life. If you have any questions or need further advice, please drop them in the comments below. Remember to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more valuable health tips, and as always, stay informed, stay healthy.